mga ka-thesis! I am Ivan Palencia, the Executive Head of Thesis It, a crash course on thesis writing and your BUCE CSC representative. Welcome to the pilot episode of the Thesis It. Thesis It series will guide undergraduate students, especially the third-year students in thesis writing, through recorded videos roughly tackling the structure of a thesis paper, ethics in research, presentation, and a lot more. As we should be both informed consumers and effective producers of research, Thesis It is here for us in promoting background knowledge and understanding, and developing skills in writing thesis. For this next episode, we will be having the topic Intellectual Property Rights and Plagiarism. This episode basically tackles about the ethics in research and research integrity. Let us now introduce to you our resource speaker for episode 2, Intellectual Property Rights and Plagiarism. To do the honors, may I call in Ms. Cecil M. Indaya, the Honorary Chairman of Thesis It and one of the BUCE CSC representatives.
Thank you, Ivan. I am honored today to introduce to the participants our guest speaker for the pilot episode of our Thesis It series. Our resource speaker spent her entire career with commendable efforts in her local, national, and international awards such as the following: Graduate of Master of Education, Educational Research Evaluation and Assessment at Flinders University, Australia, Outstanding International Student Awardee by the Government of South Australia, given the Certificate of Commendation as Outstanding Student by the University Chancellor, Australia Award Scholarship recipient, graduated cum laude in Bachelor of Secondary Education major in English at Bicol University College of Education, graduated as the most outstanding graduate in leadership and received the Presidential Award Plaque for Leadership, outstanding graduate of Bicol University College of Education, outstanding Bachelor of Secondary Education graduate, one of the 10 outstanding students of Bicol Awardee Year 2015, Regional Awardee and National Finalist of the 10 Outstanding Students of the Philippines Year 2015, Regional Finalist to the 10 Outstanding Student Teachers Year 2015, and she is the Research Coordinator of Bicol University College of Education Teaching Research, Professional Education, and the English subjects, a member of the Bicol University Research Ethics Committee, a wife, a sister, and a daughter, and also a volunteer to various youth and faith-related activities. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all give a virtual round of applause to Professor January M. Dechavez.
Blessed afternoon, everyone. I hope that I am audible to everybody who is watching this lecture presentation this afternoon. So now we are going to proceed with our episode 2, Intellectual Property Rights and Plagiarism. So all the way along the writing, even at the start of the planning of your proposal, the presentation of your proposal, specifically the conduct of your research and the writing of your manuscript, you always need, or we always need to consider intellectual property rights and plagiarism. So this morning or this afternoon, I will just be giving a short discussion on intellectual property rights, specifically coming from the World International Property Rights Organization, and of course, the Intellectual Property Code of the Philippines. We will also discuss academic integrity in particular, which is the umbrella term where we also where we will also identify plagiarism as one of the academic misconduct that a student or a researcher could actually employ or could actually commit in his or her academic journey. So after this lecture discussion, we hope that at least 90% of our student participants will be able to define in their own terms what intellectual property rights is, familiarize with some of the salient provisions of intellectual property rights in the Philippines, in our country, and of course, understand academic integrity and research ethics, and determine what constitutes plagiarism. And we will also identify ways to avoid plagiarism in our academic journey and in all of our tasks. By the way, for this morning session, you can actually go to this link, https or just type tinyurl.com/episode 2 IP quiz. It's like a self quiz for you to identify how well you know intellectual property in your level or at your level as of this moment as a student. So let us look into intellectual property. What does it employ? So intellectual property actually refers to creations of the mind, intellectual property. So it includes inventions, literary and artistic works, designs and symbols, names and images. Most of the time, they are used in commerce. So IP is protected in law. For example, patents, copyright, and trademarks. So we will just have a short discussion for this protection. So which enable this protection by the law, enable people to earn recognition or financial benefit from what they invent or create. By striking actually between the right balance between the interests of innovators and the wider public interests, the intellectual property system aims to foster an environment in which creativity and innovation can flourish. So that is taken from the World Intellectual Property Organization. Let us look into the different types of intellectual property. So the most common that you will see is the copyright. So copyright is a legal term used to describe the rights that creators have over their literary and artistic works. So works covered by copyright range from books, music, paintings, sculpture and films, to computer programs, databases, advertisements, maps, and technical drawings. So these works are covered or protected by copyright. Later on, we will discuss about the IP code. Particularly, we will emphasize copyright, considering that your research outputs, your research publication is actually protected by copyright law. The next one is patents. So patent is actually an exclusive right granted for an invention. So generally speaking, a patent provides the patent owner with the right to decide how or whether the invention can be used by others. In exchange for this right, the patent owner makes technical information about the invention publicly available in the published patent document. So generally, in your patents, if you actually watch the movie on mechanical engineering, that entitled Three Idiots, it's an Indian movie. The main actor is actually patented 400 times, and he is a sought after engineer. So if you invent something build something, create something, it should be patented. The next one is trademark. Or these trademarks, they are actually, or a trademark is actually a sign capable of distinguishing the goods or services of one enterprise from those of other enterprises. So, for example, um, remember when an artisan puts signature or mark on their products? Like if you are a um, artisans before in ancient times in history, it is just the same. Like for example, uh, the logo. Usually they have trademarks. Yeah, like Jollibee. What is a trademark? Is a Chicken Joy. So like the mark on their products. So yeah, that's a trademark. Goods or services of one enterprise, which actually distinguish it from another. We also have industrial design. An industrial design contributes the ornamental or aesthetic aspect of an article. So a design may consist of three-dimensional features, so the shape or surface of an article, or it could also be two-dimensional features such as patterns, lines, or color. You also have geographical indications. Geographical indications and appellations of origin are signs used on goods that have a specific geographical origin and possess qualities. So, a reputation or characteristics that are essential attributable to that place of origin. So, most commonly, a geographical indication includes the name of the place of origin of the goods. So, for example, when we say Kamalig Pinangat, so that's it's like geographical indication. Yeah. And we also have trade secrets. When we look into trade secrets, they are IP rights on confidential information which may be sold or licensed. The unauthorized acquisition, use, or disclosure of such secret information in a manner contrary to honest commercial practices by others is regarded as an unfair practice and a violation of the trade secret protection. So, these are the types of intellectual property. So, you can explore more on this in the website of the World Intellectual Property Organization. In the Philippines, we also have our intellectual property code of the country. So, it is the RA Republic Act 8293. So, in Section 4 of Intellectual Property Rights, the term intellectual property, the definition consists of copyright and related rights, trademarks and service marks, geographic indications, industrial designs, patents, layout designs or topographies of integrated circuits, and protection of undisclosed information. So almost patterned from the World Intellectual Property Organization. Let's focus on part 4 of that statute, of that law, the law on copyright. In section 1, in section 171, in RA 8293, they define the terms author, collective work, communication to the public, computer, public lending, public performance, published works, rental, reproduction, applied work of applied art, and work of the government of the Philippines. So definitely, specifically in authorship, the law on copyright applies. In your case, most of you have group authorship. So if you're going to publish it, yeah, you have to consider who will be the first author, second author, third. And in terms of the ownership, all of those who created it owns the material. So And they have also identified or defined original works in chapter 2 of this section. And when we talk of literary and artistic works under the copyright law, they are original intellectual creations in the literary and artistic domain, protected, again, may I just emphasize this, from the moment of their creation. Again, they are protected from the moment of their creation. Whether you apply that for a copyright protection or not, you are protected from the moment of your creation, your original intellectual creation. It includes books, pamphlets, articles, and other writings, periodicals and newspapers, lectures, sermons, addresses, dissertations prepared for oral delivery, whether or not produced in writing or other material form, letters, dramatic or dramatico musical compositions, choreographic works, or entertainment in dome shows. By the way, that is why lectures, or if you just, grab a text or a slide from a available online text or even in social media, you can still be sued for copyright law or copyright protection. That's why it's better to cite the source. Musical compositions with or without words, works of drawing, painting, architecture, sculpture, engraving, lithography, or other works of art, models or designs for works of arts, original ornamental designs or models for articles of manufacture, whether or not registrable as an industrial design, and other works of applied art, illustrations, maps, plans, sketches, charts, and three-dimensional works relative to geography, topography, architecture, or science. What else is included in the law on copyright under RA 8293 are drawings or plastic works of a scientific or technical character, photographic works, including works produced by a process analogous to photography or lantern slides, audio-visual works and cinematographic works, and works produced by a process analogous to cinematography or any process for making audio-visual recordings, pictorial illustrations and advertisements, computer programs, and other literary, scholarly, scientific, and artistic works. So most of the time, these other form protected by the law on copyright. Usually, we apply them to the Intellectual Property Office of the Philippines, or the IPOPHIL. You can check their website as well if you wanted to explore the intellectual property code of the Philippines and intellectual property rights in the country. So in Section 2 of Presidential Decree number 49A, as also imprinted in RA 8293, works are protected by the sole fact of their creation, irrespective of their mode or form of expression, as well as of their content, quality, and purpose. So there are also some derivative works that are protected by copyright, like dramatizations, translations, adaptations, abridgments, arrangements, and other alterations of literary or artistic works, collections of literary, scholarly, or artistic works, and compilations of data and other materials which are original by reason of the selection or coordination or arrangement of their contents. So you could work or you could explore this copyright law, but there are also unprotected subject matter, like for example, it's an idea, procedure, system, method, or operation, concept, principle, discovery, or mere data, if they are even if they are expressed, explained, illustrated, or embodied in a work. News of the day and other miscellaneous facts having the character of mere items of press information, or any official text of a legislative, administrative, or legal nature, as well as any official translation thereof, they are not protected or not covered by the copyright law. And of course, works of the government, under Section 176 of RA 8293, no copyright shall subsist in any work of the government of the Philippines. So, however, there is a clause regarding the approval of the government agency. So, there are conditions and all of that. Um, the main point is that the owner has the own responsibility, or the author, the ownership, whatever is the form of expression. So let's look at that. From that, knowing that we have a law governing or covering um, intellectual property, which actually covered lots of creation, whether from individual or enterprise or group. Let's apply that into your studies. So, since we know that um, the law protects or covers our creation, let us proceed now to the next portion of this topic given to me. We've discussed in what intellectual property rights, what it is in the global scene, and how do we also apply it in our country. We also will look into plagiarism. But before talking about plagiarism, let's look into the larger umbrella of uh, plagiarism. So, academic integrity is actually the expectation that teachers, students, researchers, and all members of the academic community act with honesty, trust, fairness, respect, and responsibility. So, behaviors that support academic integrity um, are we can identify behaviors which support academic integrity, or which reflect honesty, trust, fairness, respect, and responsibility. So, the most common uh, behavior is acknowledging where the information you use comes from, meaning you are clearly citing or referencing the source of your information. What else can we show that we have academic integrity? By sitting in our own exams and submitting our own work. And what else? Accurately reporting research findings and abiding by research policies. How else? By using information appropriately according to copyright and privacy laws. And of course, acting ethically, or doing the right thing even when you are facing difficulties. Don't forget, my dear student researchers, these are just few of the behaviors that you can actually observe, or that you can even do yourself to support academic integrity. However, if you are having problems that you could affect your academic performance, it is best to speak to your teacher or to your program chair rather than do things by yourself. Again, you act ethically, or you do the right thing even when you are facing difficulty. That's academic integrity. And there are also, behaviors, range of student, teacher, or researchers' behaviors which can undermine academic integrity. Sometimes, students mistakenly believe that these behaviors are commonplace or don't have any consequences at all, but this is wrong. Specifically for you, pre-service teachers, future researchers. Substantial penalties can be applied, or it can still be employed or implemented for breaching academic integrity. So what are the behaviors that undermine or breach academic integrity? Number one is plagiarism. That is where we will focus the next session of our lecture. Plagiarism, in simple terms, means that you are submitting the work that is not your own without acknowledging, citing, or referencing the original source of the work. It doesn't matter whether you do this accidentally or on purpose. Whether you change the words to make them your own or, simply copy and paste. When you are using another person's thoughts and ideas, you must reference the source material no matter what, my dear students. How else, apart from plagiarism, how do we breach academic integrity? Or what are the examples of academic misconduct? When you recycle or resubmit your work. Recycling or resubmitting your work, you do this when you have an output which has already been assessed, and then without your teacher's permission, you submitted or resubmitted it for another class. So, for example, you submitted an essay during your first year class, and then you again submit, it is already graded, and then you resubmitted it for your third year class. So, it's not bad to build on your previous work. So, you could just discuss this with your teacher, or even you could also cite yourself in that manner or for that matter. What else? Apart from plagiarism and resubmitting your work, fabricating information is the third behavior or the third breach in academic integrity. Fabrication means you're making up information. For example, for research, you are we call them in technical term, you are manipulating the data. For example, you make up information for research focused tasks. So, interview data or experimental data, even if you did not conduct the experiment or you did not do the interview. It could also be inventing sources of data, evidence, or ideas by citing publications that are incorrect, or, publications that actually don't even exist. So, right now, if you're going to submit, as I've mentioned yesterday, one of the research report type that you do is a research or journal article. If you submit a journal article for publication, they will check all of your references. And automatically, we have now DOIs, or the digital object identifier. They could already check if the link is existing or not. How else, apart from plagiarism, recycling, or resubmitting your work, and then fabricating information, you also have collusion. Collusion is when you engage in illegitimate cooperation with one or more other students to complete accessible work. So collusion is different from working in group assignments. Usually, the teachers will set group assignments. Illegitimate cooperation is, for example, you ask somebody to help you do the essay, where in fact the essay is intended for individual output. Or, what are the examples of collusion? When you share quiz or test questions and answers with other students, when you share written assignments like reports and essays. Actually, illegitimate cooperation is an unfairly advantage of a student or group of students over other students. That is why it is a breach of academic integrity. It could be uploaded illegally. It could be used for commercial cheating, or other activity as well. So there are other forms as well, like exam cheating, contract cheating, and impersonation. And of course, there are penalties for the breach of academic integrity. So we call them academic misconduct or academic dishonesty. People think that students are rarely get caught, yet research shows that teachers and institutions can definitely detect academic integrity. And, if you get caught, there will be penalties. So usually, for us to exercise academic integrity, we have to be familiar with the style guides. We avoid plagiarism, as I've mentioned, referencing and citation styles in our schools. So I have mentioned most of them. The academic misconduct or academic dishonesty. These breaches your academic integrity. So exam cheating, I don't, yeah, specifically right now we do online exam. Exam cheating includes what? Writing cheat notes on your body or materials you take into the exam room. Right now, we don't know how you do it. It's online, but if you are, it's an academic dishonesty. It's a misconduct. And what else? When you attempt to copy from other students, or when you communicate with other students or people outside the exam venue while the exam is in progress, when you use electronic devices to access information related to the exam while it is in progress, when you bring prohibited items like unapproved calculators or textbooks during the exam, that's exam cheating. You know what? When you cheat in exams, or when you exhibit, or when you practice academic misconduct or academic dishonesty, actually it has nothing to do with your teacher or your other classmates. It speaks more of yourselves. I mean, specifically for future teachers, that is just so saddening, or I mean, it's sad, it's discouraging, um because when you took the licensure exam, it will have a toil on you, because what will you write if along the way you're actually cheating during the exam? How will you take the licensure or the board exam seriously if in simple quizzes, simple midterm exam and final exam, you're not doing it honestly with integrity? And then, of course, contract cheating and impersonation. Contract cheating is actually a type of illegal commercial cheating. Why is it called contract cheating? You get someone else to complete part or all of your work, and then you submit your work as if you have completed it yourself. So right now, these days, this is common. Like you just chat a Facebook page or a group of students, and then they will do the work for you. Or, this can also include someone else to sit in an exam. So, for example, how do we do that? I have heard many stories wherein identical twins, like both male or both female, one is better in academics. That's why the other twin sister will ask um, the sister to sit on the exam on her behalf, and then nobody will know. These are real stories. Or, someone will do the essay for you, someone will do the research for you. We call it ghost writing. And yeah, so what else do we consider as there are also actions that support illegal contract cheating. They also breach academic integrity. For example, um, during your exam or practice test, when you upload the lecture slide and assignments, so for example, study notes without the knowledge of your teacher, so it's academic misconduct. So as I've mentioned earlier, you can face lots of consequences. So how do we mm, there are many ways now when we uh, catch cheating, cheaters, and those who plagiarize. So what are the common penalties? Most of the time, you repeat the assessment. If, for example, it is just your first offense, other teachers will automatically fail you in that assessment task or even in your course. Grave misconduct will get you expelled from the institution, meaning you will not get any honorable dismissal because you're expelled, expulsion. Or you could face criminal charges. We've mentioned about copyright law, intellectual property rights. Therefore, since it's a statute, you can face criminal charges. So, apart from the risk of academic or criminal penalties, if you've been found to have breached academic integrity, remember that it will definitely, at a glance, it can impact your relationship with the students, family, and friends, and even impact your future career and cause you to suffer not only financial loss, but really the relationship that you uh, nurture the most. Um, as I will always remind my students, grades are just numbers. What is important is actually learning. But if you do all of this academic misconduct just for you to pass the subject, I think you defeat the purpose of learning. You defeat the purpose of experience. It's don't be afraid of failing. I mean, not don't fail your exam, but don't be afraid to try and do things right. Do the task accordingly. You're helping yourself at all. And yeah, what is the essence of being on tap and then people know that you are actually cheating or doing things behind? Anyway, let's go further. I mean, let's look into our own handbook. In BU, we have our own statement of academic or policy statement on academic integrity. So generally, you could see here that uh, um, we adhere to the Constitution, academic freedom. Um, they did not actually define here academic integrity, but they have uh, described what constitutes academic dishonesty. So, number one, plagiarizing or representing the words or ideas of information of another as your own and not proper documentation or proper citation. Giving or receiving prior to an examination any unauthorized information concerning the content of the examination. Displaying unauthorized material, so exam cheating. Communicating during the exam, aid during exam. If even if you are not the one receiving the aid, even if you are the one giving the aid or you are the one teaching, it's also academic dishonesty during the examination. Of course, talking, converting, concealing, defacing, damaging, or destroying any property related to the preparation, completion of assignments, research, or examination. So if you have been found guilty of academic dishonesty, you will be given written warning, loss of credit, reduction of grades, failing grades, suspension, dismissal, and other sanctions. As I've mentioned, it's not only academic sanctions, it could also be a criminal sanction, criminal liability. Okay. And when we look into page 45 of the BU Student Handbook, um, by the way, when we talk of research integrity, it is the same with academic integrity, but it is more on the way that you conduct research, meaning you allow others to have confidence and trust in the methods and the findings um, of your research. So, meaning it talks about scientific integrity and professional integrity of the researchers. So, it is the same. It employs honesty, rigor, transparency, open communication, and then, of course, how you take care of your and respect your participants and accountability. That's actually research integrity. And when we talk of research integrity, research ethics is a key criterion of research integrity. You know what ethics is, identify what's right and wrong. So it's really important. And one of the breaches of research integrity or academic integrity is actually plagiarism. So it is defined in our BU handbook. And what are the sanctions? Or let me just give you a sanction. Any act subject to disciplinary action or any student BU student who commits any misbehavior in the university premises or outside the university when you are actually acting uh, in your capacity as a representative of the university, you will be subjected to disciplinary action in accordance with the schedule of the sanctions set by the university. So, um, usually it is categorized as a minor offense or major offense. So, the plagiarism is not categorized, it automatically is a major offense. So, it will commensurate depending on the gravity that you committed. So, for first offense, warning, credit, grades. So it depends on the investigating committee. But for the second offense, you could be suspended for 6 months and 1 day to 1 year. 6 months to 1 year. And for third offense, it's dismissal from the university. So plagiarism, as I've mentioned earlier, is when you use someone else's word as your own without giving proper credit. So it could be from unintentional, meaning you just forget to include a source in a bibliography, to intentional uh, plagiarism when you buy a paper using another person's ideas and make it sound like it's your own. So whether beginning or expert, researchers and writers can all plagiarize. But we have to understand that plagiarism is a serious charge in the academe, also in the professional setting. So just be mindful of that. So unintentional, I've mentioned unintentional misrepresentation, you just fail. But it's not an excuse, so be careful. Intentional, you intentionally plagiarize. Patch writing is when students usually just um, remove some words and replace them with synonyms, or just rearrange the structure of the text. It is still plagiarism. So most of the time, it could be intentional, or sometimes copy pasting automatically. It's still plagiarism. So how do we now avoid plagiarism so that we could, as much as possible, you cite your sources. That's number one. So the number one thing that you could do is to cite your sources. So we have different forms of citations in particular. So most of the time, specifically education students, we adhere to the APA style, or the American Psychological Association style. It is used in many disciplines by many writers all around the world because it is concise, powerful, and persuasive scholarly communication. In social sciences, in education, we commonly use this. In psychology, education, business economics, nursing, linguistic studies. We also have the Modern Language Association, mostly used in humanities, in writing language and literature, used by enthusiasts in English, literature, foreign language, communications, and religious studies. They use the MLA styles. Most of the time, if you see a brief parenthetical citations in the text, also alphabetical list at the end, this is MLA. We also have the CSE, or the Council of Science editors, mostly, of course, write papers in the sciences: biology, physics, chemistry, geology. You also have the IEEE, or the Institute for Electrical and Electronics Engineers. This is a professional organization in the branches of engineering, computer science, and information technology. So they also have in-text citations numbered in 6 square brackets. So the citation for IEEE in engineering, computer science, and information science is actually ordered by number or listed by number. We also have the Chicago style. This is also published by the Chicago University Press in 1906. So this is more on the rules of grammar and punctuation in American English. So the two basic documentation systems are actually notes and bibliography. Notes and bibliography and author date. So it depends on your subject matter and the nature of sources. So it's up to you if you're going to do the notes and bibliography style, um, or the bibliographic information. So that is in Chicago. Usually in history, art history, fine arts, anthropology, and philosophy. So we also have Harvard style and other style of writing. So just be familiar with them. But as educators, we usually use the APA style. And um, in our guidelines, we also actually we are using the APA. So apart from citing sources, we also, to avoid plagiarism, don't forget to take good notes. Meaning, my dear students, while researching, be sure that you are taking down notes. So don't forget to quote important passages in your research in particular. And what else? How do we do apart from taking good notes? When you take notes, don't forget to write the author and the year. So definitely, ano po, just don't forget to really include them in your paper. And then, of course, don't forget also to cite correctly. So don't just use the proper citation. And then, of course, sometimes we use quotes effectively. So if you use someone else's exact words, don't forget to cite them correctly. And then, of course, paraphrase effectively. So if you write the words or the statement into your own words, it is paraphrasing. So most of the time, how do we do citing, or how do we avoid plagiarism? We quote, we paraphrase, and we summarize. Okay. So in terms of conducting your research, don't forget that we have the National Ethical Guidelines for Health and Health-Related Studies. So this is published in 2017. You may check it, the updated version, in the National Ethical Guidelines. Remember that your design should ensure integrity and quality, and all of your participants or respondents should be well informed of your whatever you are doing, or the processes of your research. And then, of course, confidentiality, anonymity, and voluntary participation of the participants. Remember also to avoid harm, and independence of research, and conflict interest or partiality must be explicit. So I think you could just these are some of the references, and of course the photo references at the end, that you could explore in your research. So the same, if you have any question or additional clarification or insight, don't forget to email me. But again, to end this presentation, just don't forget, my dear students or dear researchers, that um, it is still uh, our role as student, pre-service teachers, as researchers, to really employ academic integrity. Again, let me just emphasize that even if it is difficult, don't forget to do what is right. Apart from the sanctions, criminal or academic sanctions, it's your personality, it's your um, humanity, it's your being that really matters at the end. So thank you again for this opportunity, and congratulations to the College Student Council for organizing this session, this episode, and God bless everyone. Have a safe day.
I guess we have reached the conclusion of our episode, as much as we would like to extend this great discussion. Thank you for being with us for our Thesis It pilot episode, Ma'am January. We now come to the awarding of the Certificate of Appreciation as a way for the Council to further express its gratitude to our resource speaker. The certificate reads, Republic of the Philippines, Bicol University College of Education, College Student Council, Academic Year 2021 to 2022. The Certificate of Appreciation is hereby awarded to Professor January M. Dechavez, in grateful acknowledgement of her distinguished and invaluable expertise rendered as the resource speaker for the episode 2, Intellectual Property Rights and Plagiarism, during the pre-recorded webinar entitled Thesis It, a crash course on thesis writing, held on October 29, 2021. Given this 29th day of October 2021. Signed, Dr. Lorna M. Minya, Dean, Bicol University College of Education. Madam January, it is an honor to award you this certificate. The QR code and the link to the Thesis It, a crash course on thesis writing, Episode 2 evaluation form are now shown on your screen. A friendly reminder that completing this evaluation form signifies your attendance at the event and your ticket to obtaining your certificate of participation. The evaluation form will be available until November 2, 2021, and the certificate of participation will be sent 30 to 45 days after the evaluation form link is closed. That's it for our Thesis It. On behalf of the BUCE College Student Council, I would like to thank everyone for joining us in the pilot episode of Thesis It series. Special thanks to Madam January for her expertise shared in the talk. Make sure to follow the official social media accounts of the BUCE College Student Council, and we will see you in our next Thesis It episode.